Just this past Friday, on the 20th of June, Canadian Parliament passed Bill C-5. We've had a lot of questions about this. I've seen a lot of chatter online about it, so we figured it'd be good to do an episode about that here on Don't Talk TV. Hello, my name is Nicholas Wansbutter. I'm a lawyer in Stratford, Ontario, Canada, and welcome to Don't Talk TV. Well, it's hot out there, so I've got my tropical blend suit on, which has been saving my life walking to and from court. And we're here to talk about Bill C-5. Now, before we get into that, if I could ask you to please keep the comments going, the likes, the shares, subscribes. This is all great for helping us to beat the algorithms. Maybe we're being shadow banned. I don't know. A lot of viewers think that we are. We've been stuck at 8,500 subscribers for years and years, at least 2 years, if not 3. So we really do appreciate all the comments we've been having. We appreciate the likes and spreading the word. So please keep that up. That said, I hate always having to harp on that, but I think it's the only way we're going to get past 8,500. So that said, Bill C-5. A lot of people have been talking about that. So let's take a little look at that. As I like doing, have a look first at Legisinfo. That's the Parliament website where you can find all the information you need on these various bills or legislation that are before the Parliament. So I've got that up here. Excuse me, I've got a little bit of a summer cold here, but as we can see, it's past third reading. Second reading is showing it's not completed, but basically you can see what they did here is they blasted through second and third reading in one shot. Now, how does a minority government ram a piece of legislation through this fast? I mean, you can see here, look, it was first introduced on June 6th. So basically 3 weeks, this is already through Parliament, and now it's going to the Senate. Now, the Senate, they're going to have to go through 3 readings and approve it. So it's not guaranteed legislation at this point. But, we'll see what happened. But let's have a look at the vote here. Again, how did it make it through Parliament so quickly? Minority government can only do this with support of other parties. And you can see here, 306 votes for, 31 against. So if we just have a look here at the result, no, that's the final result. Political affiliation, this tells the story right here. So you've got one member of the Liberal caucus who voted no. Conservatives, 140 yay, 0 nay. And one paired vote. I guess there are one Liberal, one Conservative who both skipped the voting. But this is essentially unanimous Conservative support. It was the Bloc Québécois, the NDP, and the Green Party who opposed this bill, which is... it's interesting. We'll look at the bill, and I'd be interested to hear from viewers. Do you think the Conservative Party was right to give their unanimous support to the Liberal Party of Canada here? I mean, I heard all the time during the election, we have to vote Conservative in order to stop the Liberals. Here we have the Conservatives voting unanimously to help the Liberals rush a piece of legislation through Parliament in less than a month, in about 3 weeks. And let's look at what that law is, because a lot of people have raised some concerns about this law. But again, we've got unanimous Conservative support here. So they're not doing anything to stop the Liberals here. In fact, it's because of them that this is able to go through. If they hadn't supported it, we would be... this wouldn't be law right now. So we'll have a look now at the text of that bill, and let's see, what is this bill all about? All right. So we're not going to go through the whole thing, but this is the version that was passed. And fortunately, it's not particularly long. However, it's also not particularly clearly worded. So some of this is me trying to figure out what it says. If you can figure it out better than I can, by all means, please comment. Because as I've been saying since Justin Trudeau was Prime Minister, I find Liberal Party of Canada written bills very difficult to understand. Despite being a lawyer, I'm not totally sure what they mean a lot of the time. I think that's problematic. But in any event, so there's a few different parts. This Part 1, Free Trade and Labour Mobility in Canada Act. But the one that more people seem to be concerned about is this Part 2, the Building Canada Act. We'll just skip down to that because this is the one where there's some pretty big powers that the Prime Minister is essentially giving himself. So the Building Canada Act, as I frequently point out, definitions are always a key piece to this. So to any legislation. So keep these definitions in mind, specifically this authorization, because you see authorization mentioned many times in this. So it means in respect of a national interest project, an approved or other decision or a permit, license required, or other document or instrument that is required by a provision of an enactment or of a portion of enactment is listed in these columns, to permit the project to be carried out in whole or in part. So essentially an authorization is authorizing any project to go ahead. And so it's giving them any approval or other decision, permit, license, or registration, or other document that they need. They have this authorization, they've got it, as we'll see. Now, it's mentioned in reference to a national interest project. What is a national interest project? Well, very clear wording here. It's a project named in Schedule 1. So what gets named in Schedule 1? We'll get to that first. Here's the purpose of the Act. It's to enhance Canada's prosperity, national security, economic security, etc., by ensuring that projects that are in the national interest are advanced through an accelerated process so that enhances regulatory certainty and investor confidence. So, I mean, this is some pretty... We've kind of got two conflicting things. It's saying it's doing two things at once. One, they're going to accelerate, basically skip steps to get these projects on the road faster, yet at the same time enhancing regulatory certainty. I'm not sure how you in fact enhance regulatory certainty by skipping regulations, but that's what they say their purpose is. And they also say it's respecting the rights of Indigenous peoples. I think that's one of the big concerns and why the NDP voted against this and why the Greens voted against it, is because this act seems to have the ability to just blast through a lot of the safeguards that were previously in place. And that's probably also why the Bloc Québécois didn't like it, because it could get through a lot of hoops that normally you'd have to jump through with respect to Quebec interests. So now here's where I talk about the Prime Minister giving himself power. The Governor and Council may, by order, for the purpose of Section 5, define national interest. Now, as we've discussed many times before, Governor and Council is technically the Lieutenant or the Governor General, but what does that mean in Canada's current system where the monarch exercises no power whatsoever? What it means is they just rubber stamp anything the Prime Minister tells them to, whatever the Prime Minister, quote, recommends, unquote, which is, I mean, they may call it a recommendation. He's telling them what to do. So in practice, this is the Prime Minister giving himself new powers to define national interest. And then what we have here is if the Governor in Council is of the opinion, so if, in other words, if the Prime Minister of the opinion that a project is in the national interest, the Governor and Council may, on the recommendation of the Minister, by order, amend Schedule 1 to add the name of the project. So you've got the Schedule 1 that anything in there is a national interest project that gets to, as far as I can tell from this act, we'll get into it as we go along here, gets to skip a bunch of regulatory procedures. So this is anything that the Prime Minister thinks is in the national interest, he can ram this through by adding it to this Schedule 1. So they have factors on what's required in order to make that order. But, I mean, the way, there's no voting on this. It's just purely by essentially imperial fiat. Like, he just makes this order. It's like the American version of executive orders. So I suppose these requirements, they're laid in here that someone could file a court challenge saying that this wasn't met when an order in council is made, but that would be difficult to do, and the project may well be done by the time you get to court. But they have those requirements. So then the minister must establish and maintain a public registry of national interest, so people can look it up through the internet. And then here they have a number of things that they need to include. Now this section here, Section 6, is where, if I'm reading it correctly, and tell me if you think differently, if you understand it differently, I may be wrong, because I said I find the way these laws are written to be very unclear. says every determination finding that has to be made and every opinion that has to be formed in order for an authorization to be granted in respect of the national interest project is deemed to be made or formed in favor of permitting the project to be carried out in whole or in part. So as I understand that, if something is declared or added to Schedule 1 by essentially the Prime Minister by way of the Governor General, that it's just deemed to have passed all other requirements. So this is where we get to this bypassing a lot of the normal procedures that need to be followed before a project is authorized. Although it does clarify that this does not exempt the proponent of a project from the requirement to take all measures that they are required to take under enactment or under a law in respect of an authorization. So it's saying they're assumed to have passed everything, but they still need to adhere to that as if they had to follow the normal procedures. To me, this seems like something that's very open to abuse because that oversight is just gone. They're just skipping all these normal steps. Now, so I think those are the key parts to it. Now, I think the flip side or the other argument that could be made, though, is that they're admitting that there's way too much red tape, way too much bureaucracy, so this is a way to cut through some of that. Maybe. I'd be interested in your thoughts. Let me know in the comments what you think about that. Is this actually a good act? Is it too much power in the hands of the Prime Minister? Is it good? Is it bad that the Conservative Party of Canada unanimously supported this? For those of you who voted for the Conservative Party of Canada, especially those who told people, misguided individuals like me, you can't vote for anyone else because that's supporting the Liberals. Is this what you had in mind? Do you think this is good? This is a good outcome? Is this what you meant when you said we have to vote Conservative to stop the Liberals? So that's C-5 in a nutshell. If you have any questions or comments, please share them in the comment section. This video, of course, is not legal advice. If you need legal advice, yeah, you should contact a lawyer. If you want me to be that lawyer, I've got that my contact information listed below. So that's if you have a legal question. Now, if you have a show suggestion, we definitely welcome those. You can leave those in the comments section or to the email address listed below. And if you found this video at all interesting, helpful, or informative, please consider liking, sharing, subscribing, and following us on social media.